Well, before we go too much further, I thought I should introduce myself, or at least my background. I'm not a motorcycle mechanic. I'm not a professional mechanic at all. I work as a manager of quality and engineering with a manufacturer here in town. So I don't have all the tools. I don't have all the facilities. I'm just a hobbyist. I got my first motorcycle when I was 15 years old. It was one of those Honda mini trail bikes, and kept that thing running for a few years. And I remember it didn't go fast enough, so I filed down the throttle stop so the throttle would open a little bit further, get me a little more gas and a little more air. I was able to get about 45 miles per hour on it. Got my second bike when I was in university and rode that for a few years until I started a family. I've got a Harley Dynaglide that's a few years old. That's my bike, and I always thought that it'd be kind of cool to get an old bike. I was thinking actually a shovel head, get an old bike that's in poor shape and rebuild it. And the opportunity to get this Hummer came up, and I couldn't pass it up. I have to say that all of my mechanical work on motorcycles and cars and airplanes has been me disassembling parts or disassembling something that's a problem, fixing or repairing or replacing the parts, and then putting it back together. And this motorcycle came in boxes, several boxes, with no parts labeled. And I hadn't taken it apart, so I wasn't even sure all of the parts were there. So one of the first things I did was get some parts bins, these green things with the little labels, and separate the parts into different categories that kind of made sense to me. Another thing that I did was buy a parts manual online. It was a scan of a document. Unfortunately, the first one that I bought was pretty low resolution. I couldn't read some of the part numbers, so I had to find another source and get a second one that's much higher resolution. And I got a service manual as well. Harley didn't put out a service manual for this bike until the mid 50s, so almost 10 years after they first started producing it. But it's got a bunch of information. So I haven't read it all yet. I do have a job and I run a couple charities as well, so I've got limited time, as you can tell, I guess, by how long it took to make episode 2. So I've got the manual, I've got the parts, so I started to work on the engine. First, the cylinder. The cylinder has a scratch down one side. I'm going to deglaze it and see what that looks like after I've done that. I've been able to identify the fasteners for the cylinder, the four studs, and nuts. I only had three of the nuts here, so I was able to get four nuts and new lock washers. So my first new parts for the old bike were nuts and washers. Um, the head, I did some cleaning on the head. I'm not exactly sure how to clean it. I don't have all the tools and um, the tank with solvent and all of that stuff. So I had to figure out how to work with the tools that I've got. The head seems to be in pretty good shape. I've identified the threads for the spark plug, and they're kind of worn. I'm not sure they're going to be okay. So when I get a spark plug, I'll thread it in and make sure that it's adequate. It's an aluminum head, so the material is really soft. If they're not good enough, there is a kit I can get to put a helicoil in to strengthen the thread, so I can drill, retap to bigger, and put in the helicoil to hold the spark plug. Not on screen, but I did take the flywheel to work where we have a broach, and was able to press the flywheel apart, take the connecting rod out. The connecting rod is oval. I need to replace the bushing in the connecting rod and the bearings. I can buy, according to the parts list, they make bearing rollers that are oversized, but I'm going to have to measure all the parts. I doubt if those original kits are available anymore. But I work with a company that buys bearings regularly, so I may be able to buy just the rollers separately from a standard bearing or non.